Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. What a week. I don't know where you are in the world. Well, I think everywhere is getting hit. But fuel prices, electric, everything, it's just mental. It really is. That's my current affairs chat. There we go. And also, God, I've been getting some stick this week. If you are watching, whoever you are right there, yes, I've taken your comments off. I do tend to keep a lot of comments on, but they were just out and out mean. And you do have to have a thick skin on here, I understand that. But I'm also not going to leave them up because they weren't helpful. They weren't pointing out what I'd said wrong. It was just, they were just insulting, basically telling me about how can I make money off this. For the last time, I don't make money. I promise if I start making money, I will let you know. I don't make any money. I do this because it interests me. It fascinates me. I've never claimed to have a forensic background or a background in the police force. I've never claimed that. I just like to, I enjoy researching cases. I enjoy looking into them. There's some that I'm like, no, I have to have some sort of something called get me, whether it be a date or a name, or there's something that will just go, oh my God, I need to know more about this. That's what happens. And if you're watching this channel and you do have an interest in true crime, you'll understand what I mean. I think for some people it is a guilty pleasure because there are people out there that don't understand why you'd be interested in this. Why are you so morbid? Why would you be interested in people's, how they put it, their pain and their misery. That's not what I'm doing. I'm genuinely not. I like to research things where we've got as close to a conclusion as possible. So you'll notice I don't do missing cases where the person hasn't been found yet. I like to conclude my stories as near to the end as I possibly can. But I'm not going to keep your comments on my channel. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. So if you're noticing your comments are gone, then this is to you. It's the only thing I'm going to say to you, but you're wasting your time. You really are. I have had a couple of my stories where I've been contacted privately and publicly, where I've gotten information wrong or I've been requested to take stories down. And in certain cases I have took stories off my channel. Where I've had family members come forward and just say, it's too much and, would you mind? And of course I'll take it down. I'm not doing it to upset anybody. I'm doing it to try and get as much information out as possible. I do older stories, where these people and these cases have been forgotten. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it to hurt anyone or offend anybody or to make money, which is obviously what people think. So you're wasting your time putting comments like that up. Honestly, you really are. Because I'm just going to go remove. And I don't mean comments that, very quickly, I'm going to round this up, but I don't mean comments where they're constructive criticism. You've got this wrong or this information. Of course I'll leave those up because then other subscribers or other people watching the video who may go into the comments, can get an update from people who know more, who are closer to the case. Of course I'll leave those up. But just out and out insults, that aren't really related at all. No, I'm not going to leave them up. I'm not, because it just baffles my brain why you would do that. It really does. It's like you've got too much time on your hands and you need to pack it in. So that's all I have to say about that. Now, originally, I was looking into a case, and it's the Amari Nicholson case, and that was a 2-year-old boy that had gone missing, and the cases on children obviously are very hard. I did say I wasn't going to not do too many, but I know it's very hard to listen to, as it is to give you the story. But that one, I felt I was a little bit too, not emotional as such, but too judgmental on the mum. Now, if you know the Amari Nicholson case or you want to look into it, you might see what I mean. And given the fact that there's no charges against the mum, maybe I'm missing something, but I thought I can't do that story without really losing my temper, because I just don't know. Well, anyway, I'm not doing that one. So one of my subscribers had requested this story. It's the Laci Peterson story, which obviously I knew of. Everyone knew of at the time. We do go back to 2002 with this story. Huge case worldwide at the time. Yeah, I'd known about it, but I didn't realise that there was a lot more new information that had come out. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you the story as I know it with the updated information. I'm not falling on either side, so don't come for me. But it has been likened to the Chris Watts case. And he did confess, the horrible man, to the murder of his wife and his 2 little girls and his unborn child. This one is different. I'm going to tell you now. Okay, so Laci Peterson. She was born on the 5th of May, 1975, to parents Sharon Rocha, I think it's Rocha, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, and Dennis Rocha. Obviously, Laci's name at the time was Laci Rocha. She had 1 sister and 2 brothers, and her stepdad, Ron Gransky. Now, she had, I think, 1 brother at the time when her parents broke up, and the other sister and other brother came along with her stepdad, I believe. Now, Laci, gorgeous girl. Her mum actually said she was named after a pretty girl that the mum had known in school, apparently. Beautiful, little petite, all-American girl, I suppose would be the saying. Cheerleader, studious, very intelligent girl. And yeah, just a child that you would be very, very proud of. Now we come to Scott Peterson. Now, Scott Peterson was born on the 24th of October 1972. His parents were Jackie Peterson and Lee Peterson. Now, although he had 6 half and step siblings from when his parents met, he was their only child together. Now, Scott, again, I suppose, all-American lad, enjoyed playing golf and other sports, good-looking boy, and just, it was like this couple were meant to meet. They were, you would imagine if they'd have known each other at school, they would have been high school sweethearts. That's kind of the impression I get from these two. But they actually met at the Pacific Cafe where Scott had worked, and this was in 1994. And apparently it was Laci that kind of made the first move, in the sense of gave him her number. And after, I think, her first date or second date, maybe, she told her family, this is the man I'm going to marry. That they just hit it off straight away. And they actually ended up marrying in 1997. So only 3 years after they met. You know, it's this fairy tale romance, supposedly. Now, there is notes that I've found that do say that Scott had extramarital affairs during this time, up to 2. Now, I don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on it. It's just something I've came across, but I haven't seen too much on that, so I'm just throwing it out there, although I'm not 100%. So the pair of them, while still, you know, they were studying, I believe Scott went on to do a master's, Laci also in university, and they eventually opened a sports bar together called The Shack. Now, it was very slow business at first, but eventually started doing really, really well, to the point where they were able to sell it in 2001 and buy a property in Modesto, California. Now, Modesto, it just looks idyllic. It looks lovely. Just a very small, quaint town. You know, just somewhere where you'd bring your kids up. Their home looked lovely, like a 3-bed house. It just looked like the perfect start to their married life, really. And from there, Laci took a job as a substitute teacher, and Scott started a job with, it's called Trade Corp USA, and it's a fertiliser company. Now, we come to spring 2002, and Laci announces that she's pregnant, and the whole family's just overjoyed. You know, it's said that Scott was quite a huggy person, all his family were, you know, and it was said that he was so happy about it. You know, it all just seemed perfect, really perfect, and we always know that doesn't always be the case, but from the outside, that's how it seemed, just perfect. Now, you're going to see me look down a few times now. Now, it's not that I don't know what I'm about to say. It's I need to get the dates, I need to get the times correct, because this is where you're going to see that I'm not falling on either side. I'm just giving you the information. Okay? Now, on the 24th of December 2002, so Christmas Eve, it was a Tuesday, Scott says, you know, they'd got up. Apparently, Laci had to eat as soon as she woke up because she suffered with sickness throughout the pregnancy, unless she ate the minute we woke up. I think if you've had children, you know, you can sympathise with that. And he got up about 8 o'clock. Scott left the house about 10 to 10 to go into work. And then there was a witness that said they saw Laci around 10 o'clock walking the dog. Now, one of their neighbours, about 10 past 10, quarter past 10, seen their dog, it's a golden retriever, a beautiful looking dog, in their front garden on its own. And she finds it a bit odd, but she just walked it round the back. Apparently the dog could get out sometimes, so she just walked it round the back of the house and put the dog in the garden, closed the gate and went about her business. Not thinking that this would mean anything. Then Scott, he went to the marina, Berkeley Marina, in the San Francisco Bay, part of the San Francisco Bay, to go fishing. And he was doing this between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He got a ticket when he was there, didn't catch anything, he said, and that was it. He packed up eventually. He heads home, and when he gets there, Laci's not there. So he waits for a little bit, and he's like, it's a bit odd. So he phones up her parents, and at that moment, it was obviously, I think it was Ron that answered the phone, and he was asking, you know, have you seen Laci? And he's like, no. And he's like, I haven't seen her since this morning. And it was so odd I mean, Laci at this point is 8.5 months pregnant. She's very heavily pregnant. It's Christmas Eve. You know, it was all very odd to the family. So there is a phone call of Ron, her stepdad, calling the police, and this was at 5:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And basically saying, you know, her husband hasn't seen her since this morning. You know, we don't know where she is. So the police come round to Scott's house. And there's body cam footage of them walking through the house and, you know, looking around. The house looks very neat. You know, there's no signs of anything gone on in the house. So they asked Scott to come down to the police station. And again, you can see that interview. And he's very laid back. He's very calm. You know, who's to say how you should be reacting at this time? But it is questionable. It's like your wife's missing. She's 8.5 months pregnant. It's Christmas Eve. It's going into Christmas Day now by this time. And he's very calm. But he managed to speak to his dad. And his dad said, or a family member said, whatever you do not take a lie detector. And that was told to Scott because if he passed, it'd never be mentioned again. If he failed, it would 100% be held against him. So he was told, if you're offered a lie detector, say no. He was offered the lie detector. He said no. Okay? So the police automatically are like, hang on a minute. Now, Scott does say that when the police originally came to his house, when he was walking out the door to go to the police car to be taken to the station, he did overhear one of the officers saying the husband's being suspicious or acting suspicious. So, you know, they were looking at Scott straight away from the get-go before they even knew what was going on with Laci. I mean, this is a couple of hours, you know, after they believe she's been missing from the home. So he says no. He then wants to have a lawyer. One of the questions he's also asked in that interview was, how is your marriage? You know, is anything going on? Is there anything wrong? Basically, have you messed about? You know, they're looking into things. And he says no to all those questions. And obviously, yes, that the marriage is fine. So, you'll see why that didn't stand great for him. So, on the 26th of December 2002, news coverage starts. Now, this story was picked up not only by local, but by kind of the state news. And reporters started turning up outside the house, you know, 2 in particular. And these reporters are on this most recent documentary that I've watched. I think it's 2021, the most recent one I've watched. You know, and they said they never realised how big this was going to get, but it was just, you had this 8.5 month pregnant girl just disappearing off the face of the earth. The husband's not exactly running around like a headless chicken. You know, and they started to notice he didn't really want to be questioned by the press either. You know, normally you get spouses, not just husbands, you get the wives, wanting to, you know, get the details out there to as many people as possible to find their loved one. And Scott really wasn't. He wasn't in a rush to do that. So also on the 26th of December, the searches began. Like I said, this was a very small town, very close-knit. People were getting openly upset about it, like, you know, where is she? During this time, there were witnesses coming forward to the Modesto police saying, you know, we saw her. We saw her at 10 o'clock. We saw her at 10 past. We saw her at 20 past, walking this dog. One couple says, they actually seen her, having trouble with the dog, and because she was quite heavily pregnant. The woman actually says she thought to herself, oh my God, I hope she'll be okay. But they just carried on about the business. But a lot of witnesses coming forward to say they saw her after 10 a.m. The reason I'm making such a thing about that is because when Scott got to work on that morning of Christmas Eve, he obviously had to log into his computer, and it shows how long he was at work. So just putting that out there. Now, also on the 26th of December, the police got a search warrant for the home again. So they'd already looked around it on Christmas Eve. They wanted to go back in. There was one police officer that had been on record saying he could smell bleach. But then there was other officers after the fact saying, no, I didn't smell anything. There was nothing at the home. There was no sign of a struggle. There was no real sign of anything at the home. They didn't find anything. So on the 27th of December, so now Laci's been missing 3 days. 3 days. I can't emphasise enough. Very heavily pregnant. There's photos of her. Very heavily pregnant. Petite young girl. Just missing. Okay, and on the 27th of December, the story just blows up. It goes national. Okay, I don't know if it had reached over here by then, but it did very soon. This was huge. And Laci's mum and dad and her brother, they go on TV doing an appeal. It's very emotional. Her stepdad, I'm not sure if it's her stepdad or her dad, but he breaks down on TV. It's very emotional. And at this point, the press are starting to ask about Scott. And they openly ask the family, do you think maybe he had anything to do with this? And they are fiercely defensive of Scott. They're like, he loves her. He's devastated. No, we don't believe he's got anything to do with it. So Laci's family are very defensive of Scott. Obviously, his own family are, because by this point, there's rumblings, there's rumours starting. Is it him? It's already been put out into the public eye. Could it be him? He's being very shifty. It was leaked that he hadn't took a lie detector, so that didn't do him any favours. So all of this is going on. Now, it came out that on the 30th of December, now Laci's been missing for 6 days, that opposite their family home, there was a burglary. I think there was 2 or 3 guys that were seen by a few witnesses outside this home. And the family that lived there were on holiday. They were away for the holidays. So on the 3rd of January, the arrest of the burglars was made. And the police very quickly came forward, because now people were starting to say, oh, yeah, has it got anything to do with that? Did she come out? Did she disturb them? It was opposite her home. Did she come out to see what was going on? Would she have known that the family were away and these were strangers that are removing things from the family home? So the police, the Modesto police at this point were very, very quick to catch the burglars and to insist that the 2 crimes are definitely not connected. So that was kind of cut dead very, very, very quickly. Now, on the 31st of December, 2002, so again, 7 days after Laci's gone missing, so it's a week now, It's New Year's Eve, and there's a massive vigil arranged outside the family home. People are crying. The whole family's there. Of course, Scott's there. You know, there's cameras there. There's, you know, it's a huge thing. And, you know, people are bringing flowers and they're just begging for her to come home. And, you know, it's a very, very, very emotional scene. But Scott was seen smiling, and it was like front page news. His family came forward and says what had actually happened was he was talking to his niece, and he was trying to make her, maybe comfort her in some way, because you do see him bent down to her. But as it kind of comes up, he's smiling, and that's the photo they took. Doesn't look good again. So what basically he said, the be all and end all of this case is, was Laci there when Scott left for work? Because if she was, then Scott's innocent. That's the be all and end all of this story. Because it's been proved where he was. His locations were documented after 10 o'clock. So if those witnesses that came forward, their times are right, and the fact that there was so many that came forward with specific times that were all after 10 a.m. Is it Scott? But the media weren't interested. More to the point, the witnesses that came forward, a lot of them were never questioned by the police. That's what's being said on this documentary. These witnesses are on this documentary saying the police never came to them. They never asked them anything. So, okay. By this point, there's a $500,000 reward being put out for Laci's safe return or any information about her. You know, everyone's just devastated. And like I say, it's become worldwide news by now. Now, there's a lady called Nancy Grace. She's a journalist in America. I've seen her quite a lot of times. She seems to be she borders on a prosecutor, you know, rather than a journalist. Now, the backstory of Nancy Grace was her boyfriend, years and years and years ago, was actually murdered. He was shot, you know, and it devastated her to the point where, you know, she's become very, I don't know how to word it without coming across really like negative or judgmental, but she just strikes me that she's after salacious news rather than trying to get to the truth, maybe. But basically, she had Scott Peterson banged to rights. Any interviews you see with Nancy Grace, you know, she argues anyone who dares come out in defence of this guy. But there is a huge but. A lady comes forward. Oh, God, it's just awful. It's just absolutely awful. On the 24th of January, 2003, so exactly a month after Laci's gone missing, they still can't find her. Things have quietened down, like it's not in the news as much. A news press conference is called. Now, none of the press that are there know why they're there. There are local news journalists. There's national news journalists. The family there, it's huge, okay? They don't know why they're there. And out comes walking this very timid-looking, young, blonde girl who introduces herself as Amber Frey. Now, so you can see these similarities with the Chris Watts case. Now, Amber during this press release, comes forward to say that she'd been having an affair with Scott. And the family lose their minds, i.e. Laci's family, automatically switch on Scott. That's it. He's been lying for so long. What else is he lying about? That's where people started to fall. After Amber Frey came forward, people were felt one way or the other. You had people who were saying, well, okay, he's guilty of being a crappy husband, you know, a crappy father to be, a not a nice person for lying for all this time. Does that make him a murderer? Does that make him a kidnapper? Well, you know, we still don't know where Laci is at this point, but is that what that makes him? The other side, obviously, from an emotional point of view, and, you know, all the things that had come out about him, bang to right straight away. He's guilty. He's guilty. You know, the police are setting up a case for him because although no body has come forward, they are convinced this man has murdered his wife, has murdered his unborn child, and that is it. That's the route they've gone. They're looking at nothing else. No other scenario, no other people. The burglary has now been disconnected from the case. That's it. So people fell, and the majority did fall on the side of Scott Peterson needs to hang. That's basically it. Now, what I didn't know, and I don't know if you know, Amber and Scott only met on the 20th of November 2002. By the time Laci went missing, they'd been together 5 weeks. They'd apparently only seen each other a handful of times. Now, he was seen at Amber's Christmas party, looking very happy. Amber's on his lap. He's got this Christmas hat on. You just want to punch him. You know, so they had started an affair. They had. But it wasn't this long-standing affair. Now, I don't think anyone told me it was long-standing, but the word affair, I suppose it doesn't matter how long it is, it's still an affair. But it was a very new thing. Now, when she came forward to the police, Amber actually came forward to the police on the 30th of December, less than a week after Laci had gone missing. Hence the reason the police were so quick to dismiss that this burglary had anything to do with Laci's disappearance, because they had this girl coming forward to say, oh, I've been having an affair with this man. This man told me back on the 19th of December that his wife has gone and it'll be his first Christmas without her. This is a week before Laci goes missing. It's not looking good for Scott. Not only that, he's also out and out denied that there's any third party involved in their relationship. So, like I say, I'm telling you everything I know. Everything I know. I'm not going to fall one way or the other. I am just telling you the details as I've learnt them and of what I've found out. So, yes, he said that, and his justification of that is, I did say Laci had gone, but I didn't mean in that way. I just meant we've split up. It's my first Christmas without her. That's it. That's his justification for the comment he made. So, on the 30th of December 2002, Amber starts recording her calls with Scott. She starts recording them for the police. She basically becomes an informant. you know, against Scott. So you hear these phone calls, and oh my God, I think the most sickening part that swung me, and I've gone back and forth, but the most sickening part, no matter what, is that on the 31st of December, so New Year's Eve. Now, remember I told you that was the vigil outside their home. Whole family was there. It was crowded. People were crying. It was very emotional. Scott was on the phone to Amber during this vigil. It's been proven, the time. And he was saying to her, he was in Paris celebrating New Year's Eve. And he's like, yes, it's great. And I'm with my 2 friends and I'm having a great time. And oh my God, you're like, this man's a complete sociopath. It's crazy. You know, so the police are hearing this, knowing where he was at the time. He was with his own family. He was with Laci's family. You know, people are crying that his wife and his unborn child are missing, and he's on the phone to his girlfriend, pretending to be in another country celebrating New Year's Eve. It's just, it does leave you sickened. It does. So they actually recorded 29 hours of calls between Scott and Amber during the time Laci was missing, before Amber stepped forward. So that's within a month. 29 hours. While he should be looking for his wife. Okay, on the 5th of January, 2003, they are searching the San Francisco Bay. Now, because Scott had gone fishing there, it was one of the first places they looked. And they continued to go back to that bay because they were convinced that in their mind he's murdered Laci before he went to work on Christmas Eve. Any point before then, he's murdered her. He's took her to the fishing spot where he got the ticket and there was proof of him being there. And that's where he buried her. Well, you know, that's what they've been looking at this whole time. They're not looking at anything else. That's it. And Scott's behaviour doesn't make you think anything else. He's lying about his affair. He's on the phone to Amber during all this time when people are in earnest, people who don't even know them are out looking, who are crying, who are, you know, hoping maybe for a safe return, but I think everyone knew that wasn't going to be the case by now. Obviously by now her family have completely turned against him. You know, they kind of have got him banged to rights now too. His family is still standing by him. They don't believe he's capable of anything like that. You know, so it's completely broke up the families. And the only person not showing any emotion is Scott. He's not. He does a couple of press releases by then, private interviews, which everyone told him not to do because it still put him in the worst possible light. His justification for not coming forward with the affair was basically saying, look, if I'd have admitted to this affair, no one would have been looking for Laci anymore. And Connor, which was what they were going to call their little boy. You know, no one would have been looking for them anymore. Everyone would have just concentrated on this affair, which they did. You know, and he says that was his justification for it. That's why he didn't say he wanted to find Laci and then this could come out. You know, so he tried to say that Laci might have been aware of the affair. And of course, people were like, 8 months pregnant? You think she's just going to be like, okay, let's enjoy Christmas. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. You've been knocking off some young girl, but okay. So, you know, what is the information he's coming forward with just makes me look more and more and more and more guilty. It's terrible. Now, on the 14th of April 2003, 4 months, the family, everyone just went through just the worst months of their lives. A torso was found in the San Francisco Bay, and it was shown very quickly that it was a female torso. Now, a few days before this happened, an unborn baby had washed ashore at the San Francisco Bay. Now, I'm not too sure how that's happened, whether it's when bodily fluids come out, I don't know, but Connor was found earlier on. The DNA was matched back to Laci, the autopsy, and it was confirmed that it was Connor and Laci they were found. Who was fishing in the San Francisco Bay on Christmas Eve? It was Scott. It's everything. It's this guy. This is who he is. He's done it. He's guilty. Scott on the 18th of April, so 4 days later, Scott was arrested. When he was found, he dyed his hair. He had his brother's ID. It looked like he was about to do a runner. His family came forward and says he had his brother ID because they were going to a golf course just to try and get him away from everything for a few days. And he borrowed his brother's ID to get into the golf course. He dyed his hair to try and not be recognised by the press because he was getting hounded day and night. Not just by the press, but by the public at large, because he became the most hated man in America at that time. So you see all this side, and Nancy Grace, he did this, he's dyed his hair, he's disgusting. So you've got all these people on Good Morning America and these big shows basically hanging this guy before he's even been arrested. And then you've got his family coming forward going, that's not what happened. This is why he had this stuff. This is why he'd done this stuff. On the 24th of April 2003, Scott's arraigned, and it very quickly becomes a death penalty case. They're charging him with first-degree murder, and they're going after the death penalty. If outside the jail, oh my God, it looked like thousands. It possibly wasn't. It was probably hundreds. But there were so many people outside the prison, screaming obscenities. This guy, he was the most hated man in America. You had this young, heavily pregnant, I think that was a big contention for people, murdered. And the prosecution was saying that there was 4 8-pound anchors attached to each of Laci's limbs and one to her neck. And she's put into the water. And that's how her limbs became separated and her torso was found. With all of the circus that was going on, I found that those sort of details were kind of lost in the documentary a little bit. And I just thought, oh my God, how horrible. Was she dead when that happened? Was she alive? So much time had gone past, they didn't know. Just devastating. And then to find their baby, down the way. Obviously Connor was found a few days beforehand. It just gives you such a sick feeling of what happens to this young girl. But there were witnesses that had come forward who said that when they saw Scott, these were just people who worked at the marina. They said, had there been anything in his boat, i.e. a full-grown, heavily pregnant woman, they would have seen it. They said his boat was empty. He took his boat with him and his truck. Obviously, his truck was pulling his boat to work that morning. And the police were trying to say Laci would have been in that boat. Now, if we go back to the Chris Watts case, he done it in the middle of the night. You know, snuck his wife into his truck and his two little girls, and it was all done very underhand. It was all done very sneaky, and there was no witnesses. This was in the day on Christmas Eve, people around, and he took his boat to work, took it to the marina. There was witnesses to say like his boat was empty. Now his defence, which was by kind of a celebrity lawyer who covered a lot of famous cases, he took Scott's case because he realised there was so much missing. The witnesses hadn't been questioned, and there was so much that the public weren't aware of, and he hadn't been aware of until the prosecution had to hand all the information over. Apparently there was like thousands of sheets of, you know, transcripts of interviews, and, you know, there was so much for them to go over. And the defence, one of the lawyers were in this documentary, and he nearly broke down because he was talking to Scott every single day in the jail, you know, to get all the information and get him ready for the trial. And he actually nearly broke down. He says, this man didn't do it. He didn't do it. He's lost his wife. He's lost his unborn son. And he didn't do it. But I know, you know, lawyers for the defendant, they're paid to do that. So I get that. And I'm not going to be manipulated by that. But I just think if he did it, whether he did it or not, you're still entitled to be innocent until proven guilty. You are. And just me personally, like I say, I don't want to fall on either side because I've give you all the information. You know, none of it's good. But I don't know. I just feel, why wasn't everything brought forward? Why wasn't all the information given to everyone, including the public, who basically hung this guy before he was even arrested? You know, he was guilty in the public, in the jury of court of public opinion. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, like I say, that Nancy Grace, she made him publicly guilty as well. During this time, there was a huge funeral, for Laci and Connor, who were eventually laid to rest at Burwood Cemetery in California. You know, it was a very emotional funeral. You do get to see bits of it. The streets were lined. You can't help but get emotional for the family, you know, of what they've, you know, who they've lost and the circumstances she was lost under. It's just absolutely devastating. Now in 2005, Scott was sentenced. He was not only found guilty, but he was sentenced to death. And he was sent to San Quentin prison. And the cheers and the, you know, celebrations outside when this verdict was given. And, you know, you had a couple of the jurors come out and give interviews and just say, I knew he was guilty and, you know, we've done the right thing, and kind of patting each other on the back, which I don't think's a professional way to go about things when you've been on the jury, especially when you've heard details of how Laci was found and Connor, and I just don't think it's a cause for celebration personally. You know, a young girl and her child have still lost their life. So patting each other on the back and, thinking not, you're amazing in the universe. I don't think it's the way to go, personally. But I understand the build-up. I understand from how the press basically destroyed this guy from the get-go. I understand people's emotions when he was found guilty. I understand that side. I don't like the way it was gone about. All of it from the beginning. So now we come up to December 2021, and I can't help but think it had something to do with the documentary. In fact, it's been on a couple of things that I've looked at. The documentaries have been mentioned, and these witnesses that came forward and said, we were never questioned. I remember me saying that if it was proven that Laci was alive between, say, 10 and 10:30, then Scott has to be innocent. He has to be. It was proven he was nowhere near her for the day until she went missing. So in December 2021, Scott Peterson was resentenced to life without parole. So the death sentence was taken off the books, and he was sentenced to life without parole. But Scott Peterson is pushing for a retrial. His lawyers are pushing for a retrial. And the reason why, do you remember I mentioned a juror? There was a couple of jurors, but there was one in particular, a red-headed lady. Her name was Retrial Nice, or Nice. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. But basically, in February 2022, she was brought in because it was found out that she'd failed to disclose that she was beaten while she was pregnant not long before she was called up for jury service. She didn't disclose that. And there are questions. There's a question out. I've never been called for jury service, so I'm not too sure the exact questions and details that they ask for. But that's a big one. It's a big one because she was very outspoken in the case. She had Scott banged to rights before the trial had even began. From the minute she made that jury, that was it. She knew Scott was going to be found guilty, and she was going to push that. And from that, and from her not disclosing that, even though she's now saying that she wasn't beaten while she was pregnant. Is she covering herself? I don't know. She reckons she didn't disclose it because it wasn't a big thing. She didn't feel the need to disclose it. She wasn't exactly lying. She wasn't meaning to hide it. She just didn't think it was important. But thanks to Retrial, and I believe that the witnesses that have come forward for this documentary and everything else, it looks like Scott Peterson, who's now 49, may be looking at a new trial. The burglary. Now, do you remember I said that the press was there from the 26th of December? Now, the police at the time tried to say that the burglary happened on the 26th, not the 24th, when Laci went missing. But the press were already on that road on the 26th. And one of the reporters, who was another reporter who was very down on Scott at the time, actually said when it all came out, well, hang on a minute, it couldn't have been the 26th because I was there. And if it was opposite, there was no one who was getting past me without me questioning them. He said, if I'd have seen 3 men at that house, I'd have been over there questioning them, see if they knew anything. He's a reporter, that's what he does. So he's certain that that burglary did not happen on the 26th, like the police tried to say. There are witnesses that have said it was the 24th. So there's that. Obviously, the witnesses that saw Laci after the time Scott had got to work. So they're trying to work out and they're trying to see, is it worth the cost and, the pain to the family. the resources, everything to get that man a new trial. So as of February 2022, that's where we are on the Laci Peterson case and story. Now, like I say, it's really hard not to get emotional about the story because of what happened, how it happened, who the victim was. You know, there was a young, you know, an unborn baby, you know, that she was 8.5 months gone. That baby quite possibly would have been alive, you know. It's a devastating story, and the fact that he was so unfeeling to be talking to his bit on the side while his wife's missing, you know, it just makes, is it a narcissist, is it a sociopath? There's so many names that can be thrown at him, but is he a murderer? And, you know, he's spent 16 years in prison so far. 17 years in prison. 17 years in prison so far. It's, I don't know. Everything I've looked at, I think it was dealt with really unprofessionally. I think they had him in mind and they were making square shapes try and fit in a circle box. Now, it could have been him, you know. He's been found guilty. But I think without all the facts being put forward to a jury for them to really look into, I just think was very unfair on everybody involved, all the families. You know, Scott himself, I find it hard to have any sympathy with Scott, or empathy, I'm not too sure which one I always get them too confused, in the sense of, you know, he wasn't a good husband at all. We know that. His reaction was terrible. You know, there just was no concern. But people have said that's just who he was. And, you know, people just react different ways. I don't know. So, you know, please don't come at me and be like, what are you thinking? You know, of course he's guilty. You know, please come with, you know, please let me know your opinions. But it's just such an emotional case. I just don't know. Is this man going to come out that all these years he was innocent and he was just a really crappy husband? And the burglars they got, was it them? Had she found them? You know, had she stumbled across this burglary and was just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Why was the dog out in the front garden on his own? You know, but then again, the dog had done that before. There's just so many. For every defence, there's an offence kind of thing. It's such a hard one. And obviously, any updates I've got, I will come back because I just don't think it's finished. I don't. So, that's the Laci Peterson story. So far. Even, you know, 20 years later. You know, it was 20 years ago that poor girl went missing, and you know, we're still not 100%. We're still questioning it. We just still don't know. At the moment, obviously, he's guilty, and that's what he's been found, and we're supposed to trust the process. But I don't know. I just think it was dealt with really wrong, really badly. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Please let me know what you think and subscribe or pop a like on. And, you know, I really appreciate all my new subscribers. And yeah, I will see you all soon. Thank you.